Okay, Mark meets Jason Goodman, the CEO and founder at Albion London.
Hi Mark.
Hello, thanks for inviting me in.
It's a pleasure.
It's good to meet you. This has been in the diary for a long, long time. And you're a lot younger than I thought you'd be. So what's the key to being young, building a successful business, and getting to where you are today?
So I'm 2 days back from a 2-week holiday, so I've probably got the look of a man who's had a moment to play with his kids and relax a little bit and do a bit of windsurfing and remind himself that there's more to life than just work. So I have that holiday look. It's not a permatan.
So what's the key to building something successful? How long has it taken you to build the Albion empire?
I think the key to building a successful business is not thinking of it as an empire. I think people who build really good businesses probably lie awake at night in spite of them doing really good things and being successful, and they lie awake with a healthy sense of paranoia and neurosis of what could go wrong and how it could all disappear tomorrow. And I think the most kind of talented entrepreneurs I know have got some of that neurosis. And definitely, I wouldn't count myself as one of the most talented entrepreneurs that I know, but I definitely have some of that.
So what's your background? Talk us through your career and how you got to starting your own agency.
So I'm more entrepreneur than I am ad man, and most people know me for that. So I don't even view my career starting as kind of when I started in advertising. I've had a number of businesses over the years, but the very first business I started, I bought off someone, and I was about 15 years old, and a couple of guys who were heading off to university, who lived in our sort of local neighbourhood, had run this car washing business, and they basically, it was called Gleam Dream, and they had like 2 buckets and all the kind of paraphernalia of washing cars. But I had a client list, which was pretty significant. So you could kind of buy the clients on day one and start with 30 cars to wash over the weekend. And they were the kind of the great and the good of the area, guys with big cars and fast cars. And it was a great little business actually, which I then promptly ran with my best mate for 2 years, and it enabled us to do all the things that 15-year-olds want to do.
Okay.
So that was my first business.
And then how did you get into the ads industry from there? And
so I was at university. I left university in '92. It was not a bad recession, but it was a recession then, and you were just lucky to get a job really. And I had debts, and I came from a family that wasn't moneyed, and you just had to look out. I was the youngest of 3 brothers. And so basically by the time it came to me, you had to look after yourself. So I had to get a job. Advertising looked fun. And I totally stumbled into in my first job at an agency called DDB. So I kind of learnt my trade there.
As an account handler?
Yeah, I just went in as an account exec. Was lucky to work with work with and for some really good people. It wasn't a great agency, it's long gone, but the talent there at the time was really good. And I did a couple of years there and did nothing of particular note besides learning stuff. And I think it's good. It's good just to be independent and have a wage and leave home and kind of just learn to look after yourself. And I think if you do nothing more than that to begin with, that's fine. But I always wanted to, work with better talent and create communications that I was proud of. So I went to work at an agency called BMP, DDB. At the time they were about as hot as it gets really. They were, and I spent 8 years there. Very happy years doing all sorts of interesting work.
And then you launched Tribal.
Yeah, so while I was there, I did, I was an account man and I worked on Volkswagen and a bunch of other really good accounts. But, the internet kind of was emerging in sort of 96, and I'd resigned from the agency to go and to go and work somewhere else, and they were kind of disappointed and wanted what it would be, what it would take to kind of keep me interested inside the agency. I'd been there for 3 years, and they said, you've always seemed very entrepreneurial. Think of a business you want to start, and we'll back you. And they did, and it was great. We started what was BMP Interaction and built an internet marketing business. I had the chance to buy equity in it, which Omnicom very rarely lets people do. With hindsight, it was a bloody stupid thing to do. I should have just gone and started my own agency at that point, but you don't really know that shit, and that some sort of ridiculous.
To be fair, Tribal DDB were a huge success.
Yeah, it was. I ran the business for 5 years, and we built it out across Europe, and it was network agency of the year and all that sort of stuff. So we did some amazing work for people like Sony and Volkswagen. So I learned to run a business, and I learned to run a business on someone else's dime, which is sometimes a shrewd thing to do. I couldn't afford to quite do it myself, and I think when you start something, you do need to be kind of aware of, what reserves you need, whether it's emotional reserves or just cash reserves to actually kind of succeed and run a business. You never quite start making as much money as you are hoping you will do. You don't quite get to take the salary that you hope you can take. You're always paying someone else to join the business rather than pay yourself.
So when you launched Albion, where were you? Were you based at home, or did you have an office straight away? No,
definitely I started at home. The agency started in my bedroom. It was 2002. I'd earned out of Tribal, so I'd made some money, and I was very proud of what we'd created there. But I always had a hunger to actually run my own show and kind of experience doing your own thing. Started it in my bedroom. I was living in a road called Albion Drive.
Okay.
And in the search for a name for the business, it was kind of staring out of the window, really. I had a fascination with the brand that is Albion. I'd studied, history at university, so I was kind of interested in it, and I thought it made a great name for an agency.
So nothing to do with West Brom.
You know something? There are so many stories that I've told in different pubs or different places about why Albion, but I've just told you the truth, so you've got it on film.
There you go. So how did you feel when the Albion bakery opened up next door?
I believe when someone starts something, celebrate it. The fact that they had borrowed our brand, I couldn't really blame them, and their croissants are great. So I eat there very regularly, and it's great. So the funny thing is that the more they promote themselves, everyone thinks that we're just moving into other areas of businesses. So it kind of works.
Okay, so we had a conversation off camera about who Albion are these days. Talk us through how Albion sells itself as an agency. Okay,
so we're 10 years old, and we single-mindedly work with entrepreneurs. So either entrepreneurs inside big businesses or entrepreneurs who are growing fast-growing businesses, and we provide a whole kind of range of marketing services that you need to kind of grow a business, start and grow a business really quickly. Inevitably, these days, a lot of building a successful, invariably technology-led business is about product. So I was telling you earlier, about half of our business now is product design. So everything from UX to customer experience in the broadest sense of the word. And we're doing that for some really interesting businesses. So Compare the Market, for example, hired us at the start of this year to be their, how they define their customer experience agency. Which effectively is their product design agency, looking at new interfaces for the product, how people would experience Compare the Market in the next 18 months, and designing that experience. So that's a really important part of what we do. And interestingly, our view on product design has kind of impacted the way we think about communications very broadly. So we have an approach to developing advertising and communications, which has got the user-centered design principles at the heart of it.
So do you find when you're pitching, you're coming up against different businesses to when you first started the business?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, what I love about the industry is its constant change, and I've always been happy to be I suppose, a challenger and driving the business to do things differently. We're not one of those companies that is particularly happy with the status quo, and we're always encouraging and rearranging the talent inside the business and how people work together and encouraging people to do new things. And I think it's a place where actually people come to learn stuff. The best talent that joins Albion wants to learn how to create and run their own show. I mean, when I'm interviewing people, I'm looking for the kind of hunger of people, of entrepreneurs.
So they're young Jason Goodmans.
Look, they're the people who I love being around.
Who inspire you, who continue to push you. Exactly,
who I learn the most from, who I admire the most, who I'm excited by. And I think the new, I'm 42, right? The generation of 20-something entrepreneurs are kind of like, in my view, they're the rock stars of this generation. And, we're lucky to have many as clients, and I'm very happy to have, created an environment where that sort of talent can really grow. There's evidence of it as well. I mean, we've got Code Club was kind of incubated here. Claire was a UX designer, awesome, very, very talented woman. Started it with a developer, Linda, out of Last FM, and it's prospering now. It's fully funded. Will be in over 1,000 schools by the end of this year. And she's one of numerous people who've left here and gone and started really interesting things. And they learn the craft of startup here, because that's what we're all into, and that's what we're celebrating, and that's what we're encouraging.
So Albion's 10 years old or so, there's 80 or so people here. You're turning over the most amount of money you've ever turned over. What does it take for someone to work here these days? What do they have to do to get their foot in the door?
So, this is a very good question. I mean, I'm looking for people who've got something to prove, who feel like they've been, held back in some shape or form in, where they're working currently. They've got kind of, some sort of an uncontrollable urge to kind of prove themselves. So I suppose that's that's one kind of editing, it's one way of editing talent. I'm looking for people who are, who are bright and clever and savvy, and who get the world around them. So, it tends to help if you've got, really good qualifications, but it's more important that you've got really broad experience. I mean, it's not an original thought, but, we look at T-shaped people, and we're looking for deep craft skills and really broad kind of cultural interest. We are, it's one of the things we say to people is kind of bring your geekdom to work. If you don't have some sort of real area of passion, then we kind of worry. What is it? And that geekiness doesn't have to be tech-based. It can be anything-based.
That's my philosophy when I'm dating women. They've got to have an interest. They've got to have hobbies. They've got to have something about them which obviously keeps conversation going.
Yeah, God, it's got to be what life's about, right?
So what's Jason Goodman doing in his spare time outside of Albion?
So I do a range of different things, often too much. These days I'm kind of fortunate enough to be kind of very much part of the startup scene around here, so was part of the kind of founding board that started Seed Camp and worked closely with a good friend and actually an investor in this business, a guy called Saul Klein. So kind of have helped at Seed Camp as a mentor. For those of you who don't know it, it's probably the incubator competition for startup in Europe, and that's given me an opportunity to invest in some startups in the process. So I got involved with an amazing entrepreneur called Emi Gal, a Romanian guy, 25, started a business called Brainient, which is an ad tech business, and one to watch. So this morning I was in a board meeting with Brainient and looking at all the challenges of how we grow that business. It's an analogous associated industry, but I'm the non-exec chair there, which is a kind of a ridiculous title, just for trying to be kind of useful to how to make the business happen. And I'm doing lots of that sort of stuff basically.
In your opinion, what's the future of this industry? Obviously, you guys have moved in different directions, and where you fit into the industry kind of changes year on year, but where do you see this business going, and where do you see the future of the industry?
It's never been a more exciting time. I mean, that's I'd say that genuinely. I kind of like, it's kind of, I've been doing this for about 20 years, and it's got an amazing buzz in it now, because kind of the very broad world of advertising is just massively changing. And I just think in that moment of change, just new stuff is just is very exciting. So the way we view it is that, I don't know, integration's always been really important. That was the opening mantra of Albion, of like, let's bring digital and advertising together and kind of make it all in one place. So I still believe integration is an ongoing challenge, but Jesus, it's by no means an original thought. For us, how product sits inside communications is really, really important. And kind of mastering the craft of product design is just kind of crucial, really.
Did you get to a stage where you created a lab here, or did you end up...
Yeah, I'll take you up there. So we're on 2 floors in the T building, and on our second floor we've created a space which is full of really interesting, talented startups that we get involved with.
Is it quite R&D focused?
Totally R&D focused. It's kind of businesses that we either respect, admire, excited by, want to invest in, would love them to grow so they can become real clients of ours. It's people like TransferWise, which is the first kind of employee of Skype, a guy called Tarvid. He got Peter Thiel, who started PayPal, to invest in the business. Amazing entrepreneur. So he's up there. We've got the Etsy guys up there. Kenneth's director in Compare the Market. I've got seats inside the offices. So it's kind of like we've got a space upstairs, which is kind of which our people are very much kind of working amongst. And just that in its own right, there's a lot of kind of sharing of knowledge and sharing of skills, which is really important.
Who do you respect in the industry? Obviously, apart from Albion, who do you think is doing work that is genuinely kind of changing the face and shape of how brands communicate with their customers?
I've always loved RGA. They've got this kind of understated amazingness, and they've changed as a business constantly, and have always stayed a step ahead of the game, which I've got enormous respect for.
And true to their specialism.
Yeah, I mean they've got a very unique culture, a very different way of working, and they're by no means negative about the ad industry, or kind of but they've got
it's not us against them.
But they have a positive sense of their own identity. So kind of I really respect those guys. And then there are lots of us two are across the corridor to us. I love the work they're doing. Berg is run by people we've worked with in the past, and I think Mark is a great guy who joined them from Clay. So there's many great agencies out there.
From an individual point of view, who's always inspired you? Have there been ad heads or leaders?
Yeah, I've got to say, from a business point of view, I take my inspiration from outside the industry. It's not because I've got anything against the industry per se, but I suppose it's not difficult to see something of yourself in all your contemporaries. Do you know what I mean? And I take my inspiration from people who are really different, and who are, I kind of take my inspiration from new stuff. I often look abroad. I'm kind of spending more time in Israel at the moment. One of my brothers lives there, and there's this kind of awesome tech scene out there, and there's some pretty amazing individuals coming through the business scene in Israel.
Facebook have just bought one for $1 billion, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. So the Waze guys, founders of Wix are pretty amazing. The guys who started Saluto are awesome. So kind of I definitely, my inspiration are the technologists. I love engineers. I love the way they think now. I love the way they kind of challenge themselves to go beyond engineering into other areas of business. I think ad people need to do the same.
So do you have a favourite ad campaign of all time? Is there one that really kind of stands out for you?
I worked on Volkswagen for a number of years, and it's a very boring thing to say, but there's been lots of great work, and I worked with John Webster for a couple of these kind of final years of.
Must have been amazing.
Yeah, and that was awesome. So I'd say The Honey Monsters was it kind of is my sense of humour, and you know, I kind of remember walking into his office and kind of enjoying his genius.
Let's move on to a quick fire round. One word answers.
One word answers.
Can line or D&AD pencil?
D&AD pencil.
Olympic gold medal or an Oscar?
It's got to be an Olympic gold medal.
The brightest person you've worked with?
Chris Powell.
The most creative person you've worked with?
I've got to say people inside my own business.
John Webster, surely. He's in there. The best looking person you've worked with?
I've worked with so many. This industry is full of vanity.
Creatives or suits?
Creatives.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Ant or Deck?
I love them both dearly.
Spice Girls or Girls Aloud?
Both constructs are awful. One word answer, fuck them.
Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Favourite flavour crisps?
I designed Salt and Lineker crisps. I was part of the team who did that when
Wow.
we did Walker's crisps. So I love salt and vinegar, it's great.
Take That or Westlife?
Why are you doing this to me? Why can't it be Curtis Mayfield or Bob Marley?
I'm trying to break you down.
Take That.
Degree or no degree?
Do a degree, it's worthwhile.
Art directors or copywriters?
Art directors.
The Only Way is Essex or Made in Chelsea?
The Only Way is Essex.
Retained work or pitch work?
Retained is always much better.
Web or mobile?
What's the difference?
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
So I live an independent lifestyle.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
You know, both.
Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
I love them both actually. Awesome characters.
And lastly, twist or stick?
Stick.
Thank you very much.